So I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Soltanieh of the Iranian delegation. Dr. Soltanieh, maybe we could begin by covering Iranian interests at these climate negotiations. Why are you here?
Well, thanks for the interview. It's my pleasure. Iran has a lot of stake in this issue for many reasons. I can name a few. For example, Iran is in a semi-arid and arid area, suffering a lot from climate change impacts, especially drought and floods, flash floods. Iran also has a very, very long coastal zones which are affected adversely by climate change. We have very limited forests to deal with, so that we have to preserve them for generations, and therefore we have to be very careful with climate change. Iran is a mountainous country mostly, and so it has very delicate biodiversity in mountains. The major issue is Iran's water supply, which is very delicate and very short of supply. Therefore, Iran's sustainable development depends highly on climate change. And the government is quite aware of this fact right now.
And how is Iran seeking to adapt to the impacts of climate change? What measures are you taking?
Well, we are at the beginning of this process at this time. Although we have prepared 2 national communications to the UNFCCC, however, Iranian government, although has established the basic structure or basic rules of procedure for climate change issues, it still has not implemented them yet. We are at the beginning of implementation of those programs to deal with climate change. It starts with the inventory of greenhouse gases, the mitigation policies. It also deals with the impacts of climate change in all different areas, including water supply, agriculture, the forestry, fishery, coastal areas, and biodiversity and human health. These are areas that are of concern to the Iranian government to deal with.
And we've heard a lot about the importance of leadership in these talks. What efforts is Iran going to mitigate the impact of its emissions? Obviously, you have an oil-dependent economy. Are you exploring renewable energy?
Oh yes, actually this was the second point that was going at the beginning. I was going to raise at the beginning, and that's the stake that Iran has in the energy market. Iran, as you know, is a major oil-producing exporting country. Also, Iran has a lot of domestic use of energy, consumption of energy, which is alarming, of course, and we have to be very, very careful about that. And so to preserve our natural resources and also to have sustainable development programs, we need to have a good energy program, including renewables, of course. Renewables have received attention for almost 2 decades at this time that I'm talking about. There are some pilot projects for wind, for example, already operating, and there are some pilot projects for solar, which has great potential in Iran because of the geographical location of Iran. Iran also has a very good hydro potential because of being mountainous. At this time, although the production of hydro is below, say, 15% of the total energy production, depending on the water availability behind the dams, though still Iran is very concerned about hydropower. Especially these days, they are talking about small hydros, which is compared to the larger scale hydros that have been designed and constructed in the past.
And does the political situation, the political relationship between Iran and the West and Iran and the US raise unique challenges? So, for example, many other countries here are exploring nuclear energy as part of their energy mix. And in terms of adaptation, does it affect the access to funds or the access to technology that you're able to access?
Well, this is an important and very delicate issue for Iran because we are willing to and ready to go into international cooperation with especially technology transfer to mitigate climate change, and the potential for mitigation in Iran is really great, of the order of tens of millions of tons of CO2 per year. And therefore, we are willing to do so. And what we want at this conference is that the technologies related to environmental programs should not be included in the sanctions in general. In other words, the technologies related to and the environment have to be, these technologies have to be accessible to all countries, no matter what political situation is.
And perhaps I could just finish by asking you about your hopes for the coming talks in Cancun, in Mexico at the end of this year. How much progress do you think has been achieved this week, and what can we expect from Cancun?
It is a very difficult question. I cannot, and nobody can answer, even the chairs. However, there are some areas that have been proceeded one step towards Cancun to successful conclusion. Maybe adaptation, REDD plus deforestation have had some steps forward. Whereas some other issues like commitments and mitigation commitments by both parties, both Annex 1 and non-Annex 1 parties, have not been so successful so far. It needs a very major decision by all in order to come to any kind of conclusion. With respect to technology and finance also, as I see at this time, is that there are some infrastructure needed for these two mechanisms to be operational, and there are some progress in that direction to establish the general structure of the funding and the general structure of mechanism of technology transfer so that all countries can cooperate afterwards.
Dr. Soltanieh, thank you very much for joining us.